For thousands of years, fans have been indispensable. Not only have they been used for cooling, but they've also been recreated in quilts as well. Well, Marie Harper made this beautiful Victorian wall hanging, and she embellished it with traditional black lace. She used ribbons and trinkets, and then she finished with stippling in the center rectangle. Well, while her table runner was made recently, this fan quilt was made during the Victorian years. Now, the hand stitching around the silk fans is just fantastic. Well, I can imagine well-groomed Victorian ladies in their parlor communicating silently with each other just with a wave of their fan. Well, lucky was the gentleman who took the time to observe this secret art. Now, I wonder if he knew that drawing a fan across the cheek meant, "I love you." Well, if she left the fan resting on her right cheek, it meant yes. Well, the opposite meant no. Such communication. Well, my sister Patricia designed this lovely 15-block quilt. Now, it has 15 fans in 2 different colorways set together in vertical rows. And then she used 1 piece of striped fabric in both the lattice and the borders. Well, Teresa took the same fan blocks and turned them into a table runner, and it's perfect for decorating a buffet table. You know, you can create table runners for each season just by changing the fabric. Linda Parker made this 12-fan table runner in these patriotic bright red, white, and blues. I just love the flags. And she used 2 colors of rickrack, white along here and red on the outside. It's just perfect for a picnic. Well, Marty Hollis also used patriotic fabrics for this rounder, and she used only 8 fans. You know, Marty said she can make a rounder in just 2 hours. Well, I made this one for a fall harvest spread. Ooh, I just love a party. So this one is extra long. I even took a little fussy cut leaf and put it in the quarter circle. Well, Lou Ann Stout made hers from Christmas fabrics. She used gold rickrack around the quarter circles and then gold thread for machine quilting. Just beautiful. Well, change the fabric and you can have a contemporary look in the purples and the blues. This is just wonderful. And Teresa made this charming table runner in reproduction fabrics for a scrappy 30s country look. Now, she used 2 different colors for the quarter circles, the blue and the purple. And then Sue Bouchard used fabrics, the colors of the land and sky in her beautiful table runner. Well, join me and you will become a real fan of these techniques. This is another unspoken conversation with the fan. If you take the tip of your finger and just touch the top of the fan, it means, I wish to speak to you. And I do wish to speak to you about my 12-fan table runner for our patriotic potluck. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. Well, these are the 2 different color families that I selected. I selected red, of course, and the blue. Now, these are my 4 fabrics for my red. Fabric A, B, C, and D. I have 2 of each of A, B, and C, and only 1 of D. They are cut 4.5 inches by 12 inches. This is going to be my quarter circle for my red. And then this is my second color family, my blue. And I have the A, B, and C, 2 of each, D, only 1. And then this will be my quarter circle. Well, these are my templates. I traced the wedge. This is the large wedge and the large quarter circle. For the table runner, I need to have 6 red, large, and only 2 blue, large, and 4 small. So I'm going to get those all stacked up and ready to go. This is the best thing about this. You know, you can stack your fabric and layer it, cut it, and it's ready for sewing. I'm going to start with A and just put it out there. Then comes B, C, And then when I get here, there's only one D, and then I start over again. This is C, B, and then the last one is A. And then you start on the left, you flip B to A, you just work in pairs like this. D to C, flip this one right sides together, and you have just a lonely little A out here. And then take them with B on the top and just stack them. Once again, left to right. One good stack, and it'd be great if you could just line up those outside edges. Now take your template. This is the large template that you need right now, and just put it over on the left side, and then with a permanent marking pen, follow the outside edges. I actually have a grain line traced right on mine. I want to keep it on the straight of the grain. Just trace around the outside edge. It's curved on the top and on the bottom. And then turn that wedge the opposite direction. Use that one line that you already drew and butt the template right up against it. And you just keep on going. You know, each wedge that you draw on here represents one complete fan. That sounds pretty good. Okay, and then once you've gone the whole way across, have all of your wedges. Take your straight edge, 6 by 12 is great, and cut on the straight with your straight edge. Pick up one of these stacks, and then with a very sharp pair of scissors, just cut right around that curve on the top, turn it around, and cut that little curve on the bottom. And that is ready for sewing. Now this is the quarter circle right here. This is the template. If you would like to do a fussy cut that looks like this, just one flower centered right in that quarter circle, take your template, and it's helpful if you draw a straight line right through the middle, halfway in the middle, and then 1/4 inch lines on all the sides, so that when you place it on your flower that you'd like to select, you can get that centered. You know where your seam's going to be. Just trace it right on there and cut this out with your scissors. Well, all of this is just fine, but I have something that's just so much fun. This is a die cut, and I'm having a great time cutting up my fan pieces. Well, this is the die right here, and there are 6 wedges on this die. And you can see there's rubber right on the top. Well, actually, when you run it through this machine, there's just so much pressure that the rubber compresses, and then it exposes the blade that's deep inside here. So let's see how strong I am today. I'm going to take the die. I already have all of my fabric stacked exactly as I showed you. I'm going to put that on there. Then, so I don't have a problem with that static, lifting that up. That comes next. And then comes a piece of plastic. Put it in here. I'm just going to tip that up and get that going. And once I get it going, I'm just going to push with all my might. Just turn that right through there. Oh, I'm not going to have to go to the gym today. Actually, that was pretty easy to do. Now, let's see what we have. Lift up the plastic. Lift up the paper, and just go ahead, get in there, and lift out one of those perfect stacks, all ready to go. Well, the wedges look good. Let's see. Just push this back here like this. This is for the quarter circle. Let me put that on there. It's all stacked, ready to go. Tip it in there, get it going. Little pressure, just put it right through. And I'd say I am set for all of these pieces. Well, let me get my machine set up, and I'll show you how to sew them together. A shot fan held to the heart means you have won my love. Well, you will love the easy way these fans go together. I have my stack of wedges right here, and each stack represents one fan. Now remember, they're already right sides together in pairs and ready for sewing. So the stiletto is just invaluable in separating those pairs. So just take the stiletto, separate out the first 2. Those are the A, B's, right sides together, 1/4 inch seam, 15 stitches to the inch. Just pedal right down there. Pick up the next pair, right sides together, and see how you use the stiletto to just feed them right through there. And then it's CB, separate them out. Ooh, there's just one more. There's those 7 wedges. You've got 3 pairs, and then the last one is just a single A, just set it aside. And you just keep on going right through, making pairs of all of your fans. And then, once you cut them apart, pull them back, and just clip them. And I like to stack them in order. Just get rid of those threads and keep going again. Okay, now this is AB. Open it up, check it. It's so much easier right now to take it apart. This is CD. Flip it right sides together. Get those curved edges lined up at the top. And then you just have a little curved edge right at the bottom. So you start feeding all of those through. Oh, let me get that stiletto. Lay it out. Now, it's really important that you keep a consistent 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, but then that's true of all of your quilting, isn't it? Okay, so this is C, B, and A. This time, only 3. Flip them right sides together and just keep them going. Well, it's important that you're consistent as you go through. And also I found out it's best if you don't press these wedges until all 7 are sewn together, because you tend to distort them and stretch them as they go. Okay, got sets of 4, sets of 3. Clip your threads. Open this up. Looking good. There's that lightest one in the middle. This is looking very good. Consistent from the center out. So then you just flip this last set of 3 right sides together, and your whole fan is done, ready for pressing. Well, while I have that connected, I'm just going to take my 1/4 circle. Now for the table runner, you add embellishment to only the 1/4 circle. That's the tricky part. Embellishment only on this. Now you might want to use piping. This is 1/2 inch wide piping, and you just really sew it along the top edge right in this binding here, and then you can flip it like that. That finishes the raw edge. But I'm using 1/2 inch wide rickrack. And you know, I actually threw this rickrack. It was white. I threw it in my last cup of coffee and did a little coffee dye on it just to take that bright edge off. But you take the 1/2 inch, line it up on the edge, and match the outside edge of the rickrack with the outside edge of the 1/4 circle, like so. You can still use your 1/4 inch foot. Takes a little bit of getting going, but I just use my stiletto, curve that around. No pinning here. That's the easiest part. Just sew right along that top edge. And I'm right up to the very last one. And that's it. I have one completed fan already done. Pretty fast, huh? Okay, now, just going to take these 2 units and put the fan wrong side up. And I like to use my pressing mat. I like to look at the squares, the grid, because if you can press to the left and use that to more or less set the seams. Set the seams, go along like this to the left, and actually use those so I can create this 90-degree angle. You go to the left, turn it right side up, just kind of swirl right along there. That's the fan. Set the seam on the rickrack, and then with your hands, just turn under that raw edge on the rickrack. Boy, watch your fingers, and just press right along there. And that's going to fit right on there. Now, all I need to do is position the 1/4 circle, do a stitch in the ditch, and it's done. Now, you want to be consistent. So once again, if you use the lines on your mat, you can go ahead and see, okay, I see that. I'm following here. I have about a 1/2 inch here. You want to make it equal on both sides. So get it on your mat, take your 1/4 circle, use the lines to position it consistently over and over again. Take a couple of pins, put that right in place, and then all you need to do is stitch in the ditch through the rickrack. Well, let me get the rest of my fans finished. When you cover your left ear with the open fan, it says, "Do not betray our secret." Well, don't you tell a soul how easy this is to put together. I'm ready to cut my side and corner triangles. The side triangles come from one 10-inch square, and I'm going to cut it in both directions on the diagonal. Just cut in one way, lift your 6 by 24-inch ruler, and then cut it the second direction. So you actually have 4 triangles. The corners come from 6-inch squares. You need to have 4 of them, and you just cut this one in one direction. Now go ahead and get them marked so you don't get them confused. Well, I laid out my fans, and this is what I have. I have the red, blue, red. 2 sides exactly the same. Now you always start with your corner triangles, and they are going to go on both ends, just like this. So let me put those in place, and I'll show you how to get those sewn together. And then actually these are the ends. You need to have your corner triangles on each side of the red. Let me, oh, I just have one more set, and that is going to finish it. Okay, so then there's just 4 spots. The side triangles go in each one of those positions. Now, whenever you start out sewing them together, the triangles are oversized. Well, that's the best part, so you can go ahead and square them up later. Always start on the left end. I've got the fan and the side triangle. You're going to flip it right sides together and center the fan right on that triangle. Let me just sew this one together and I'll show you. Now, since the sides are identical, you can go ahead and do both sides at the same time. Just do a little assembly line. But I am barreling through this, so I'm just going to show you the one side right now. Okay, hold your stiletto. Got your tips hanging out on both sides, definitely oversized. You do have a lot of back and forth on the pressing. You want to always press the seam towards the fan. So set the seam with the fan on the top, lift, open, and press right into that fan. Straight down. Okay, I like to trim off these tips on the end. I think it's so much easier. You just go ahead, line up your ruler with the side, trim that off right there, get rid of that. Let's just put it back in the row so you can see how it's coming together. That's how it started. Now we're going to flip the side triangle, right sides together. This time you do have a match point. You're going to match up the top of the fan with the triangle. Got lots of excess down at the bottom. So let me just go ahead, sew this one side triangle on. Now once you have all of the rows sewn together, each row has a small fan sewn to each end. Okay, let me just match that up. And that will literally use up all of those fans that we made. Okay, now take this. Once again, set it with the fan on the top. Set that seam, open and press so that the seam is behind the fan. And that's what it looks like. Well, let me get the rows sewn together. I'll show you how to square them up. I have my 2 sides and my 2 ends sewn together, and I'd like to show you in detail how you match those fans. Now when you add the second fan onto this one, see how you have that 1/4 inch seam up at the top? Well, you do it by lining up the top of the seam of the fan right here with the seam underneath. You've got that 1/4 inch overlap. This is where the rickrack is going to go. You'll have a nice, sharp, crisp point. I want to show you how to square up the ends. Now, when you square them up, you square up right up to the points here, and you leave a 1/4 inch down at the bottom. That's for that next seam. So let me show you on this one using the 12.5 inch square up ruler. You just take the ruler and line up the edges here. Right along there. Oh, and I've got the 1/4 inch line right down here. So trim one side and then across right along there. Just take these, get rid of them. You have one more side to trim, so turn it around. This time you can go ahead and use that diagonal line if you'd like. line it up with the seam on the fan. You've got right at that point, oh, looking straight. It's great. So whatever the width of this is the same width that you cut for your center strip. Now mine ended up being approximately 8 3/8. So I cut a center strip that's exactly that same width, 8 3/8. Well, I've got my 2 ends done. Let's take a look at those sides. Now the best ruler to use for this one is the 6x24, and it's exactly the same idea. We're going to line up the tip right here, the tip of the ruler, with the edge of the fan and the 1/4 inch seam along the bottom. And if you need to just give that fan a little pull, tug it, manipulate that fabric underneath so you get it all lined up. Okay, that is looking good. And this piece was just slightly over 24 inches. It was about 24 1/8. And so I cut the length of that center strip at 24 1/8. And I'm just going to take this, get rid of it. I only have one more side to trim, so let me turn it around this way and line up that ruler so that it's straight with that tip. Got that 1/4 inch seam allowed right down there. Trim off the side. Only have one more side to do, but let me show you how you finish it. Then you take and you sew a little fan, little blue fan on the edge. When you flip it right sides together, you can just match up at the top, match up at the bottom, stitch that along there, and fold that out. One end, and you're going to do the very same thing on the opposite end. So let's just put the ends right in place. They're going to go first. The ends get sewn on first, and this strip is going to fit right in the middle. This is great. I can't wait to see it. Okay, this is the start of it. These pieces go on here, fold them out, and then the 2 side pieces will get flipped in, and that's all I have to do to get ready for the party. I sewed my top together, and as soon as the top was together, I sewed some rickrack the whole way around the outside edge. Just line up those little tips on the rickrack and stitch the whole way around. Well, I'm finishing this just like a quick turn. I put my batting down first, and then my backing, and I pinned this whole top right sides together to it. And then following the stitching from the rickrack, I just stitched around the outside edge and trimmed that batting and backing away. Well, you really need to do some little clips right here in between each one of those fans so that whenever you turn it right side out, you can get into those nice sharp points. Let's see how this is going to work. So just grab in there. I've done this so many times with the kids. It's just called a quick turn, no binding on it, and you do your machine quilting after you get it turned. Well, I've got it right side out. Let's just see if we can do some curves. Oh, look at that rickrack popping out. Looks so nice for that holiday potluck. Let me push this out. Get right in there. And whenever I do this, I like to just put pins around the outside edge to help it lay nice and flat. Just a little bit more, and it's looking great. Now, quilting is easy. Just the walking foot, and all you have to do is just stitch continuously. It's amazing because you can start at one edge and just keep on stitching continuously from fan to fan and then around that center piece. Oh, it's so much fun. You know, whenever you take your fan, the little finger extended means goodbye. Well, I'm just going to change my clothes. I'm on my way to set up for a patriotic potluck in Hunter Park. So join my friends and I, and we'll just have a great time together.